Welcome to the podcast today, hosted by Pat Gray, Stu Bergier, a host of Pat Gray Unleashed and Stu Does America, available on Blaze TV at blazetv.com/Glenn, promo code being Glenn for $10 off your subscription to Blaze TV. Also, you can subscribe to our podcasts. Do that right here on this app. Rate and review, please. We appreciate it. 5 stars is the appropriate number of stars. And whatever you write in the review, it's great. Whatever you want to tell people about the show. Something quick, something easy. We appreciate it. Today on the podcast, Glenn is back, by the way, back on Monday. We get into Biden's continuing issues with his cognitive decline and how the media basically has made him a non-entity in the news, which is very strange. Andrew Cuomo's daughter has come out as demisexual. And if you don't know what that means, you're a hate monger. We hate you. Everyone hates you, but you're the hate monger somehow. I can't remember. I don't know exactly how that works, but we will tell you what a demisexual is if you don't happen to know. And we look at the war in Afghanistan. What's the right way to think about it? And did we do the right thing, sort of just in the cover of night, leaving a giant airbase empty? Questionable, Pat? What'd you say?
Yeah, questionable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We did say good luck to him on the way out, though. Good luck! They didn't hear us because they were nowhere in the area because we didn't tell them we were leaving.
But that's probably okay.
That's
right?
fine.
Maybe we left a note, like a sticky note.
Maybe.
Hey, good luck, guys. Even though the Taliban now has already a third of the country, what could possibly go wrong? Here's the podcast.
You're listening to the best of the Glenn Beck program.
One quick point here on the vaccines and the fact that the media obviously doesn't care about getting people vaccinated.
This door-to-door thing is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And
that's going to push people away from the vaccine. You show up at the door with a needle? I'm sorry. I don't know where that's been. I don't want anything to do with it. See you later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.
One thing you could do is, I think, and they're not doing this so far, but you could just get the vaccines to people's doctors, right? One of the issues, I had a friend who was thinking about getting the vaccine. They hadn't gotten it yet, and they went to a doctor's appointment, and the doctor was like, "Look, you should get it. Get the vaccine, get it done. I know it's annoying, just get it done." And they were like, "All right, what do I need to do?" And what they needed to do was leave the doctor's office,
right,
and go on their phone and set up an appointment for 4 days later. And then drive
just do
over
it right then?
Right, just get them in the hands of the freaking doctors who people trust, right?
Right.
Their local doctor who's giving them the information. That's one thing. Another thing you could do, and this is more applicable to what we're talking about here, which is if you actually cared, let's just come up with a mythical world where the priorities of the media and the government was to say, we want this pandemic to be over and we want people to be vaccinated. And the vaccines are great and we think this is the best thing that we can do.
Yeah.
We're going to put that above everything. We're not going to, obviously it's bigger than politics, right? What you could do is have a concentrated effort to put a guy named Donald Trump on television and all over the media
saying,
to talk about how much the vaccines are a success story.
Can you imagine what that would do?
Yes, it probably would make a big difference.
It would influence millions of people who are supporters of his and remind them that, hey, he's the one that got this going.
Right. It going through it's his administration. It's his accomplishment.
Yes.
By the way,
it's not Biden's.
Donald Trump got the vaccine.
Yep.
I listened to Donald Trump on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. They're in the Rush Limbaugh time slot, and they had the president of the United States on the air.
Former.
Sorry, I should say. You're right. Former president of the United States. And Jeffy, by the way,
Thank you,
from Jeff Chewing the Fat podcast, joins us here.
Just a believer. I mean, Joe Biden got more votes than anyone, my friend. He's the president of the United States of America.
But you take the former president, and I was listening to him talk about the vaccines. He sounds exactly the same way he did during the campaign. Yeah. A huge part of his re-election campaign was, hey, we're getting these vaccines done.
And a huge part of his legacy is having gotten the vaccine done.
Yeah.
In the time frame he said
yes.
it would get done.
Yeah, which is incredible. And as he pointed out again, the entire media said it was impossible and he was lying about it.
Right.
Okay. So let's just say, like, I know you have this ban on the president. I know you can't bring him on when asking him about denouncing white supremacy or whatever weird thing you feel like you have to do every time he comes on. Yeah. How about don't do any of that? How about have a nice softball interview where you say to Donald Trump, hey, guess what, Don?
It would work.
Yes, it would.
Mr. President, you came up, you were able to shepherd these. Think about this approach. If CNN was on the air, if all the news networks and the president of the United States went and said, you know what, Mr. President, we have a lot of disagreements. But look, you did an incredible thing here where you pushed these things through. You were able to make create an environment where things occurred that have never occurred in human history. That you have wiped out, with these vaccines, we could wipe this pandemic off the planet, and you're the guy who shepherded that process through. Instead, what they've done is say, there was no plan. There was no plan at all. We had no idea. We came in here. There's boxes of vaccines. They were even going to be mailed. Like they just completely lied because they wanted to win politics more than they cared about whether people lived or died.
And they could.
That
really
is the truth.
Ignore everything that happened before and just say, here's Donald Trump. Donald Trump helped get this thing done. And Donald Trump, what do you think about the vaccines? Yeah. And he could just do it. And they don't have to say anything about it. They don't have to go backwards in time.
They don't have to talk about January 6th.
Go forward.
They don't have to talk about
what
the
you just said.
That would never happen.
Biden could never say that.
Not in a million years.
Never say
would not happen.
Neither could one single soul on CNN. Nope. They couldn't even bring themselves. Like, let Donald Trump come in there and say, you know what? You guys lied about me the entire time. And these vaccines were a success, and you guys were wrong. And let him say every terrible thing because obviously
because you care about people getting the vaccine,
about getting it right.
Yes.
You care about the vaccine.
So you know they don't.
You're going to put the pandemic above your personal pride, right, guys?
Except
and
no,
they're
not.
Not
a chance.
Even consider it.
No, and you played his. You know, we continue to play clips of Joseph Robinette Biden struggling to say anything. And I see where there's a new study done, a new survey of 1,000 likely voters from the Convention of States and the Trafalgar Group. 56.5% of American voters do not believe that President Biden is fully executing his duties in office. Wow.
That's amazing.
Okay.
56.5%.
Again,
of American voters.
You can't get to 56.5 with just Democrats, guys.
No, you can't.
You can't do that.
No, you cannot. No. It's just
or just
amazing.
Republicans. So that's not just Republicans saying, he's not fully executing. That's Democrats, Republicans, independents. I'd like to know, because I'll bet, there's a huge portion of, I don't know. There's a lot of Jeffies out there who, I don't know.
I don't know.
So what is it, like 56.5 to 20 to 19 who think he's fully executing his job, his responsibility? Does it say?
36.4% believe he is directing all policy and agenda.
36. That's higher than I would have guessed.
31.7% Democrat voters do not believe.
That's incredible.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
That's incredible.
And, you got 83.6% of Republican voters that don't believe he's doing it. I would say that's a little low.
Yeah.
That seems a little low. And little over 58% of independent voters do not believe he's fully executing his duties.
That's remarkable. I mean, I don't see how you come to another conclusion other than you just, you're hoping. You're a Democrat. You voted for him. You're hoping, right?
Or you just watch CNN, which doesn't cover any of it. You only
that's true.
In your little sphere, all you see is what reinforces your point of view. And if that's what you do, then you don't understand that the guy is in serious cognitive decline.
Yeah, I mean, no question. I mean, he does not wearing his pants backwards like the previous president, Donald Trump. But he can barely
been disproven, by the way.
I mean, he's just struggles every day. And I would say that, you talked about the notes in his jacket pocket being the same. I don't know. Doesn't he carry the names of all the names of dead soldiers and
that's what he claimed. Yeah. Didn't he claim that?
Deaths of the coronavirus in the one pocket.
He didn't seem to have that in either pocket, though.
I don't know.
It seemed like the other note.
He didn't pull the first one out and go, oh, these are the numbers that I carry with me every day.
No, he didn't.
No, he did not mention that. So it's probably the exact same note.
I'm sure it is.
Sad. Also, dreams do come true. Here, as long as we're doing a little chewing the fat segment, I want you to know dreams do come true. Michaela Kennedy Cuomo, 23, came out on Instagram, and you know the daughter of your man, you know him, you love him, Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew Cuomo is awful. .com.
Yes.
Is his last name .com?
I think it is. It must be.
Okay.
Every time I hear Andrew Cuomo is
Cuomo
awful.
is his middle name, and then .com.
Yeah,
is his
Andrew
last name.
Cuomo is awful. .com. That's the way it works. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
She came out last month as queer, but now
Really?
now has declared herself demisexual.
Wait, hold on, because I thought also she had come out previously. Do you have the whole transition here?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
walk us through this, because
Okay.
this is pretty interesting.
Okay, so in elementary school, she feared that she was lesbian. I don't
And that's
know
the
why
way she phrased
feared
it.
Wait,
Yeah.
she feared?
I don't know why she feared it.
What
but
kind
she-
of hate monger is this person?
Yeah, that is the way she
What?
phrased it. She
Then-
feared. So you have to assume that, I guess before that, she was either straight or nothing, right?
Right.
I mean, she's a little kid, elementary
Right.
school. So she hits elementary school and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified I might be
I
lesbian.
might be lesbian.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
And a lot of kids in elementary school think in those
that.
terms,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
like
man.
a lot of kids are like, I think I might be a lesbian. Happens all the time, very common.
Then in middle school, she
school.
came out to family and close friends as bisexual.
Okay, so there's the third thing that she is. She's bisexual in elementary school.
Then when she was in high school, she discovered pansexuality.
Okay, pansexual.
And
She has sex with everything.
That's the flag for me.
No, I think pansexual, if I understand it correctly, and Jeffy, I know you'd probably be the expert on this, but let me attempt it. Pansexual means that basically you don't care about whether it's a guy or a girl.
Correct.
Like you're just gonna like whatever. If you meet someone, you like them, you go for it. You don't think about it. You're not attracted to either one.
But that's almost anything, right?
And now she recently learned
it's not limited to just men or women. I think.
Right.
Right. But
It's
where
whoever,
bisexual is you are attracted to both.
Yes.
Pansexual is you're not necessarily attracted to either. It's just you're attracted to the individual.
And you're not necessarily not attracted to everything either.
Right.
So you might be attracted to absolutely everything.
Or nothing.
Or nothing. Or nothing.
Right. You can't be pinned.
We should
And
point
then
out
she
that
came
a lot
out
of
as queer.
Yeah. Okay. Queer.
Okay. Now, what's the difference
and
between
now
queer, Jeffy?
she's demisexual.
Demisexual.
Yeah,
Which is
demisexual.
What is demisexual?
So that is people only feel sexually attracted to someone when they have an emotional bond.
I think this is interesting because
I think I'm demisexual
right.
too.
I think
I am.
demisexual is the way we're supposed to be, right?
Yes.
Now, I think like when you talk about sexual attraction, I can look at some movie star and say, "Wow, she's hot," right? Without having an emotional bond with
Right.
her.
Yes.
Right.
Or he.
I'm saying in my particular case. Okay. I might say, but like she's saying you can't be attracted visually. You can only be attracted via emotional bond.
Right.
So it's not exactly the way that I think everybody is, but it's a good element of a relationship.
Yes, it is.
I think.
Now this is where her dreams have actually come true, because she said in this interview that she has always dreamed of a world in which nobody will have to come out.
Me too.
Oh my gosh,
Me
you guys!
too.
I think the dream has come true.
That's my
You're there. You've
aspiration.
arrived.
I think you have.
You've
I think
arrived.
you
You,
have,
don't
because
have to worry about it anymore.
She claims that nobody has to come out because everybody's sexuality will be assumed fluid.
That's a
But
different
in a world
formulation.
In the world that we live in now, it force feeds cisgender heterosexuality.
Yes,
I hate
Coming
that.
out of the closet is a lifelong process of unpacking internalized social constructions and stigmas.
How many times have I said exactly the same thing? How many times?
I can't
If
count
I've
them.
said it once,
That's the time you said it.
but I haven't.
But-
So
no.
But if I had said it once,
But this is why I keep hearing this, mainly from the
is that her?
very warm videos produced by giant corporations like Procter and Gamble, who say like, "Love is love. Let us give you a 2-minute pride video about that."
Yes.
And at the end of one of these I watched last week, it said like, "We just want to get to this point where we don't need to talk about this anymore. We're just, you've arrived. Congratulations."
Well,
because they say like, "Oh well, we wanted to come out and then we realized people were going to be judging us." And obviously that means evil conservatives like us, right? That would be judging us.
Right.
Here's the thing. We're not judging you. We don't want to hear about it. We don't need to hear about it. You can do whatever
Exactly.
you want to do on your own. I don't want to hear word one about it. And you've arrived at this incredible world you desire. This oasis that you've been trying to get to this entire time where you just don't have to tell anybody about it. We don't have to hear about it.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to tell us. We don't need to know.
I'm sorry, if we conveyed to you that we wanted to hear about this stuff, that's our mistake.
Again, yeah, we don't.
We don't. We never did.
Dreams do come true, Stu.
By the way, they do come true every day on Chewing the Fat with Jeffy. Listen to the podcast.
You're listening to the best of the Glenn Beck program.
Raytheon, another gigantic American corporation that is involved in critical race theory, or CRT, as we call it for short. And apparently they're taking their white employees to school. So that's great. That's great.
You could tell that the left is not enjoying the way this is playing out because they're doing all the typical things that people on the left do in these situations, which is deny it's not really what we mean. You're using the term incorrectly. It's not really happening. These things that you say are so bad. When their former position was these things are not bad. These are good.
Yeah.
Right. Now they're realizing the pushback, I think, from the American people. They've run up against that wall a little bit with this stuff. And so they're saying things like, well, it's not really critical race theory. It's just intersectionality. Well, they're very closely related, as we all know. Intersectionality essentially would be an element that is required to discuss critical race theory. Right.
Well, for instance, have you confronted your privilege yet? Have you confronted it?
I have.
You have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And confronting it,
it ran the other way.
It did?
Yeah. It was.
Good. So you don't have your privilege anymore.
I scared it away.
You scared it away.
Yep.
Good.
That's how you do it. When you confront it, you just got to confront it, come out from behind a door or something when it's walking. It's like maybe it's on its phone.
Yeah.
And then you jump out and you make a really loud noise and it runs away.
Oh, okay.
And then you don't have any more privilege.
Good. All right.
That's the way it works.
Okay. So you identified and scared away your privilege. Have you stepped aside for minority voices yet? You need to step aside.
No,
you haven't done that.
I'm not going to step aside really for anybody. I'm going to.
Well, these minority voices, though, Stu, are more important than your own. So you kind of need to step aside for them.
Understanding what we're doing is encouraging people to listen to others based on their skin color.
Yes.
Now,
exactly
has there ever been an example of this being utilized and turned out poorly? Has there ever?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, there's many examples of that, but we're ignoring those now?
Oh, we're going to ignore them.
Yeah, we're ignoring them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea, and it's been sort of foundational to me for quite a long time, which is never, ever in your entire life make any decision based on skin color.
Really?
Never. Not once. Not even one time in your life.
That's
should
old
you make
think.
any decision based on skin color.
Old think is what that is.
That's old think. Okay.
Yeah.
Not the appropriate way to go about it.
Not appropriate anymore.
Got it.
No.
And by the way, we should point out, Raytheon is our second largest defense contractor.
Yes.
They should be thinking about building giant missiles.
Yes.
And planes, things that blow other things up. Focus on that. That's really important. The intersectionality should not be the focus of Raytheon.
And why is it? It's just so bizarre. And we're supposed to reject, according to Raytheon in their program, they're telling employees to reject the notion of equality and instead strive for equity.
Yeah, Nathan.
Can you walk us through the difference between equality and equity, Stu?
Sure, I can. As Chris Rufo, who initially reported this, as he seems to be doing all the time, Raytheon explicitly instructs employees to oppose equality, defined as, quote, treating each person the same regardless of their differences.
Right.
Reject that.
Yeah, that's old. Again, old think.
And instead, strive for equity, which, quote, focuses on the equality of the outcome. End quote.
Love that.
Do you remember when, like, the conservative attack against the left-wing philosophy was to say, hey, we all want equality. We just want equality of opportunity. They want equality of outcome. And the left would be like, what? How dare you say that? That's not true. That's not what we want.
Now they admit it. It's exactly what they want.
Of course it's what they want. And that's what equity is. This word, which sounds like the other word, but is not the other word. Equality and equity are different things.
Big time. And so this is essentially Marxism they're talking about, because they want to guarantee the outcome. So,
or at least theoretical Marxism. Of course, Marxism in reality has no such thing as equality of outcome. But that
everybody comes out poorly.
Everyone comes out poorly except for the ruling class, which has a pretty sweet life.
Yep.
Certainly different groups. Ask the Uyghurs if communism provides equality of outcome.
Well, you can't, because they're in concentration camps.
Oh, yeah, it's difficult to get to them at this point. They're in thousands of concentration camps spread throughout the country. But yeah, it does not actually provide such things, but it is theoretically providing those things. Chris Rufo writes, finally, in a collection of recommended resources, the company encourages white employees to, quote, defund the police, end quote. Quote, this is a defense contractor. We should defund the police.
I love this.
Also, quote, participate in reparations, decolonize your bookshelf, and something that I will personally guarantee that I will never, ever in my life ever do, quote, join a local white space. Now, what is a white space?
Yeah.
It seems to be a collection of white people who talk about their whiteness. That they're whites.
Why do I want to do
for example, let me just give you a theoretical real
talk
world.
about how bad you are as white people.
Well, talk about your whiteness and understand and think about your race all the time. Something like they used to have these groups. People wore hoods to the meetings. And they were great, I'm sure. Robert Byrd was a big member, big proponent of local white spaces. Yeah, that was something that used to happen among Democrats all the time, and now they want to bring it back. Isn't that wonderful? You know, the Democrats brought us the KKK, and now we have local white spaces, which are totally different than the KKK in that they're also white people getting together to talk about the race all the time. I guess the fact that they're saying they're the bad race instead of another race being bad is some sort of improvement, but I would say not a concept worth revisiting. Not a fixable one, you know, Pat? Sometimes you get to the point where you're just like, you know what? Let's not try to, let's say fascism. Let's not remix it and see what we can come up with and try it again. Let's just skip it. Let's just rule it out. KKK, let's just rule it out. Let's just take it out. Let's not try to fix it. Let's not try to come up with a different way of doing a local white space. Let's get rid of them entirely. Sounds like the right approach to me.
Yeah, it does.
Unbelievable. And this is so constant right now. Raytheon, again, this is not, I don't know, to use some example, like Starbucks, right? Like, okay, some left-wing organization, some left-wing company, I don't know, some like organic, buy local hemp salesman, coming up with a seminar like this. This is a freaking defense contractor.
Yeah, second largest in the country after Lockheed Martin. It's pretty amazing.
Now, one thing you should stay away from. First of all, one thing you need to do, Pat. I want to make sure we understand what you need to do, what you need to stay away from. You need to, according to the Raytheon internal documents, you need to think about telling your employees to do this. You have to, quote, identify everyone's race. Now, your employees, if they spend a minute trying to identify every other employee's race, what you should do with that employee is fire them immediately. Get them the hell out of your company. If you have employees that are taking time out of your workday to figure out and document everyone's race, Pat, has there ever been a historical example where a group of people documenting others' race has turned out poorly? Has that ever gone the wrong way? Like, if you were to make a giant list of people and try to figure out, I don't know, what percentage black they are, what percentage Jewish they are, but let's just say, in a theoretical world, could that turn out poorly?
Oh, wow. In the last 15 minutes, I can't think of a situation like that. If I was to go back, maybe, I don't know, into the sort of early to mid last century, I could possibly think of a place or two where maybe that occurred.
Okay. So there is maybe one, but we shouldn't probably think about it and learn anything from it, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
How about you must listen to the experience of marginalized identities and give those with such identities the floor on meetings or on calls, even if it means silencing yourself. So let's say you have a really good idea for a missile.
Okay.
But, a Mongolian person is in the room, a Mongolian American, and they say, you know what? I, as a Mongolian American, am oppressed. I believe the missiles should be shot with slingshots. Let me have the floor for, let's say, an hour.
Okay.
What you should do is silence
Shut
yourself in your rocket propulsion technology and say, we got to go slingshots. Because, look, they are a marginalized group, and that's your job.
And that would be part of deconstructing my privilege, wouldn't it?
It would
really,
be.
And understanding how white male behavior is devastating to racial minorities.
Right.
And in that situation where you're suppressing your own idea for theirs, why you've done a good thing there.
Yeah, there you go.
You've done a good thing.
And I think we could look at this at three different levels here, Pat, right? The level of like higher education, university teaching, should critical race theory be discussed? Like, I don't want my kid I don't want to pay to send my kid to a place where they're going to learn about that. But you know what? Academic discussion, whatever. You can do whatever you want. Shouldn't be banned, certainly. Although I wouldn't want to send my kid to a school that was doing it. Secondarily, you have this level, right? Raytheon, companies. Would I want to work at a company? Would I want to invest in a company? Would I want to, if I was running a company, do this sort of nonsense and teach critical race theory or something similar to it to my employees? I would say absolutely not. Should it be banned? No. I mean, I think if Raytheon wants to freaking waste their people's time with this nonsense, I don't think you can ban it. We live in a country where people should be able to do these things if they want to. However, horrible idea. The next level, though, is the one we're talking about more frequently, which is, should these be taught in public schools to K to 12, right? And should that be banned? Sure, it should. Absolutely should not be taught to kids K to 12. And so the defense there from the left has been this is what Vox's framing of it was last week. Many Republican lawmakers cite critical race theory as a reason to ban discussions about racism in schools. First of all, I've never heard that before. I've never heard a Republican say anything like that. No one says that they don't want to discuss racism in schools. No one says they want to say, you know what, let's present slavery positively. I went through the whole school system in public schools. Never did I hear word one that racism was good. Never did I hear word one that slavery was kind of a positive. Never taught. But they say, the way they frame it is Republicans are trying to ban discussion of racism in schools, which is not at all what's going on. And then they say, though there's little evidence that the framework of critical race theory is even being taught in K through 12 schools. So it's not a bad thing, but even if it were being taught, even if it were a bad thing, it's not actually being taught in K to 12 schools. Here are two stories from just the past week. The nation's largest teachers union has approved a plan to promote critical race theory in all 50 states and 14,000 local school districts. Does that sound like a K-12 problem? Does
yes.
To me.
Yes.
Ibram X. Kendi, the guy who wrote Anti-Racist, How to Become an Anti-Racist and Anti-Racist Baby, he is scheduled to speak Wednesday at the American Federation of Teachers Teach Conference. This is absolutely a massive issue here. And it should be thought about, and it should be out of our schools. If we're going, you want to start your own private school where you teach kids a critical race theory, and kids pay their own money to go to it, and blah blah blah. That is allowed in the United States of America, even if we don't like it. However, public schools, absolutely not. And states absolutely have the right to put standards on what is taught in the curriculum of their schools. Of course they do. Of course they do. The federal government doesn't have much of a role in it. But the state government does. And the local governments do even more. And the idea that this is just a non-issue because Democrats find it to be unpopular and they realize they're on the wrong side of the polls on it does not mean it goes away.
Yeah, 61% of Americans don't want critical race theory taught in their schools. 61%.
You're listening to the best of the Glenn Beck program.
the pullout of Afghanistan after a mere 20 years. I mean, is it too soon?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think so. Are we the last of the coalition to still be there? The British aren't there anymore, right?
No, yeah, they're gone. They've been gone for a while.
So it's just us.
It is just us. Well, it was just us. I mean, it's basically done now.
Now it's the Afghans.
Heard a report this morning. They're going to keep a few hundred troops in the country, mainly to protect the embassy. Which is sensible, right? Like if you're going to have an embassy there in a country that's
if you're not going to keep them there, then you move the embassy. You move the people out of the embassy.
Yeah, you just abandon the country entirely. But if you're going to have an embassy there, you should have troops there to protect the people in it.
So we left the other day. Our troops left Bagram Air Base basically in the middle of the night and didn't tell the Afghans that we were leaving. So a group of people went in and looted the place before the Afghans got in there.
Which is great. Now, this is a 14 square mile Air Force base.
Yeah, it's
gigantic area. And, so I guess what happened was there were some rumors that we were going to be leaving. I mean, they presented this in the media. They're like, well ahead of schedule. Well, Trump had it scheduled for May. Mm-hmm. So July would not be ahead of schedule. Biden just said he just changed the schedule to September and then left in July after the initial scheduling. So this is how the left gets away with this crap with the media. I'll never understand. But I guess when you have someone who you're rooting for, it's a lot easier to justify such things. But basically, there was the rumor that they were going to be leaving. Then they just turned the lights out. And everyone was like, wait, why did all the lights go off over there? We should just go over there and see what's going on. Mm-hmm. Realize nobody was there. And there's like photos of people like carrying off cases of like Red Bull full. Like energy drinks and stuff, right? Bizarre circumstance. And it's hard to imagine that this turns out well.
Yeah, the problem is the Taliban will probably now just retake Afghanistan, right? That's what I expect to happen, is that terrorists will just get back together and reclaim the country. But what would you do? Just stay there forever? What's the alternative?
Yeah.
If you don't pull out and we don't ever come home, and we leave troops there forever, we probably could keep the Taliban at bay. But when you leave, what can you do?
There's all sorts of reporting where Afghan troops are handing over weapons to the Taliban. The Taliban now supposedly, but the best estimates are they control 1/3 of the country already as we're leaving. I mean, we've basically just given up on this. And look, you can make the argument that our mission should have been more narrow, and that mission was accomplished, right? I mean, Osama bin Laden is dead. Al-Qaeda is not really the force that it once was. But, our mission was
if that was the goal,
larger than that.
We could have left in 2011.
Yeah. I mean, Osama bin Laden specifically as an individual was 2011. But I mean, there was massive damage to Al-Qaeda generally well before that.
Yes.
I do hesitate at times with this idea that we should judge a war by how long it goes on for. First of all, this has not been a war in the way that we think of warfare for a long time.
That's true.
You mentioned earlier,
that is true.
Pat, late last hour, that 13 people per year die from getting hit by
vending machines
that fall over.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in 2020, 11 people died in Afghanistan. 11, less than the amount of people who die from vending machines falling over them in the United States.
Not to minimize, of course, the loss of our...
Totally. I mean, when you look at the deaths that occurred, several of them were motor vehicle accidents.
Oh, wow.
Right? There were some that were attacks. Some of them were attacks by Afghan troops.
Yeah, that's the toughest to take.
That's the toughest to take, for sure. I'm not saying any of these aren't crucial, but I mean, here we go. Non-hostile vehicle accident, non-hostile incident, non-hostile vehicle accident, rollover, non-hostile.
What is that, 4? 5?
Yep. Here's a hostile.
Jeez.
hostile fire, small arms fire, green on blue attack. So that was by an Afghan troop.
Yep.
Same thing for the next one. Then a non-hostile aircraft crash.
6.
Non-hostile aircraft crash, and then hostile fire IED attack. So when you think about
so 4 of them?
A traditional warfare attack, I'd say you would say 1. Right? I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think off the top of your head of a green on blue type of attack.
Right.
But you have to count. All of these count, obviously. And if you have a kid over there who died in an aircraft crash, you're not going to feel any better about it. But that stuff happens in the United States.
Yeah.
And we have aircraft crashes from military test pilots in the United States that happen. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that it's nothing. It's something. And look, we have to at some point, even if it's just for spending, right, reasons. Like, you can't just spend money maintaining another country forever. But to think of this as everyone's like, this is America's forever war. Can you look at a year like 2020 and say, okay, that's a war year? Remember, what's the alternative of war? What we used to do in war was, yes, the wars would end in 3 to 5 years because hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people were dead.
Yeah. You fought them full bore, full on. It was just warfare all the time. It wasn't like, okay, we're gonna take this country and we're gonna maintain it. Yeah. And then we're gonna get attacked every once in a while. That's not what's been happening in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
For what, 10 years at least? Maybe more than that?
I mean, if you look at the fatalities, U.S. fatalities in Afghanistan, really, you had a peak. The highest number was 2010 at 498. Now, again, 498 was 10 minutes of a battle of previous wars.
Yeah.
As sad as all of this is, and every loss of life is incredibly. I mean, I don't have to sell this audience on the fact that we all care about our military members. But war has changed in a way that I think is positive, even though, there's no longer necessarily these days where you walk away with the parades and everything else. I mean, 498 was the peak in 2010. Then it went to 415, 310, 128, and it's been under 100 since 2015 or 14. It was 55, 22, then 13, 15, 14, 24, 11. Then that was 2020 was 11. Now, again, I went through those 11. Mm-hmm. Only one of them is what you would think traditionally of a war death. A couple of others from allies that should have been helping us and turned on us. A couple of those, so it was 3, and the rest were non-hostile events where car crashes, airplane crashes, things that were terrible, but also not what you would think of as a traditional war death. Did you happen to read the latest Malcolm Gladwell book, The Bomber Mafia, by any chance? It's really good. I mean, it's really, really well done. And I like Malcolm's stuff. I mean, it's always interesting to me. But this is about basically the idea of the early Air Force, where they decided their vision of what war could become, where they would drop guided bombs, not just bombs that plastered an entire, just denigrated an entire civilian population without thinking about it. Their vision of trying to create the technology that would allow us to target the military installations we wanted to hit, and not just carpet bomb societies. And one of the main proponents of this was in World War II and got to the point where he was leading the operations against Japan from the air, and eventually lost his gig because the technology wasn't really ready. They didn't really have it ready, and they wound up changing to carpet bombing, basically. But you realize that, when we think of Japan, obviously in World War II, we think of the atomic bomb. So much was done with essentially napalm type devices, firebombing these places, because the way their homes were built were very vulnerable to fire, and they were very close to each other. And we were just, dropping.
And there was a lot of that during Vietnam to clear away the jungle.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but they were doing it to clear away, communities and cities. Yeah. And I'm not questioning these tactics in that, this war needed to end. And I'm glad that we dropped the atomic bomb. I'm not anybody who thinks the opposite of that. But that was the choice at the time. It was do you essentially kill 100,000 people tonight in their homes? Essentially the equivalent of what we saw in Miami, right? Where the entire building just catches on fire or collapses, and everyone in it dies. And do you do this over multiple square miles every night for a year? That was warfare.
Yeah.
Look, Afghanistan is a different situation. And to sit here and say, like, you look at these years. Do
you have the total from the whole war? It's something like 4,000 or 5,000, right?
2,452.
2,000.
That does not include this year, by the way. I have only up till 2020 here, but 2,452. Now, I think the number you're thinking of is 3,596, which was total coalition deaths. So that includes the UK and other. There's 455 from the UK, 689 total in all the other countries combined. Iraq was 4,910 total coalition. 4,586 U.S. But again, even Iraq, you look at Iraq, this is since 2012. 2012, there was 2 deaths for the U.S. 2004, I'm missing 2013 on my chart here, but 2014, 4, then 8, 20, 22, 17, 12, 11. And again, you look at the details to them, and many of them are the same sad situations, vehicle accidents, rollovers, non-hostile. There are some that are hostile. I mean, these are still dangerous areas for sure. But I think judging a war, what we should look at when we judge a war should be, of course, the outcome. Did we stop people attacking us, if that's why we went to war, which in Afghanistan, I would argue that was the reason we went. And we stopped that, and when
that seemed to accomplish
interrupted
that goal,
a lot of it. And also, the main thing is the most important thing to me is how many of our service people do we lose, not how long the war goes on.
Yeah.
Look, it's uncomfortable to say, and this is true, that people who went to Afghanistan after 9/11 have children who are now serving in Afghanistan or until very recently. It's hard to think in those terms, but the fact, if we could return both of those people back here, that's much more important than the timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And we have changed warfare. I mean, people are dying a lot less in wars, and that is good. It's no longer the drain on human life that it once was, at least not at the moment. And we can take a little solace out of that, I think.